The sledgehammer felt heavier than it should have. Jack Hartley stood in the center of what used to be a dining room, dust motes dancing in the afternoon light, streaming through broken windows. The house on Sycamore Street had been abandoned for nearly a decade, and he'd bought it for almost nothing at a county auction 3 months ago. It was his 4th renovation project since the divorce, his 4th attempt at rebuilding something broken. His daughter Danielle was at school, which meant he had 6 uninterrupted hours to work. 6 hours where he didn't have to pretend he was okay, didn't have to force a smile when she asked if he missed Mommy. Jack could just swing the hammer, tear down walls, and feel something other than the hollow ache that had taken up permanent residence in his chest. Jack pulled his safety goggles down and took aim at the wall between the dining room and kitchen. The first swing sent a satisfying crack through the plaster. The second opened a hole. The third revealed something unexpected. There, tucked into the wall cavity between 2x4s, was a shoebox wrapped in a faded blue cloth. Jack set down the sledgehammer and carefully extracted it from the wall. The cloth was tied with string that crumbled at his touch, revealing a plain cardboard box beneath, warped with age and moisture. Inside, he found photographs, dozens of them. A young couple at the beach, laughing. The same couple at what looked like a county fair. A woman with dark curls, holding a baby. And beneath the photographs, a letter. The envelope was yellowed, the address written in careful script, but it had never been mailed. No stamp, no postmark, just a name and an address in another state. Jack hesitated, then carefully opened it. The letter was dated August 15th, 1987, 36 years ago. Dear Michael, I've started this letter 100 times and could never find the courage to send it. By the time you read this, if you ever do, enough time will have passed that maybe it won't hurt so much. Or maybe it will hurt more. I don't know anymore. I need you to know that leaving wasn't your fault. You were 7 years old, and you were perfect, and I failed you in every way a mother can fail her son. Your father told you I didn't want you, that I chose something else over being your mom. That's not true. That was never true. I was sick, Michael. Not sick in a way people could see, but sick in my mind, in my heart. They call it depression now, but back then people just said I was weak or selfish. After your sister died, something broke inside me that I didn't know how to fix. I looked at you and saw her face, and the grief would pull me under like drowning. Your father tried to help. He really did. But I was too far gone, and he was grieving too, and eventually he gave me an ultimatum: get help or leave. I left. I thought you'd be better off without me. I thought my sadness would poison you if I stayed. I've been getting help for 3 years now. I have an apartment. I have a job. I can get out of bed in the morning. I can smile and mean it sometimes. I'm not the mother you deserved, but I'm trying to become someone you wouldn't be ashamed of. I don't have the right to ask you to forgive me. I don't have the right to walk back into your life and pretend those years didn't happen. But I want you to know that I think about you every single day. I imagine what you look like now, whether you're tall like your father, whether you still love building things, with your hands the way you did when you were little. I'm going to send this letter. I'm going to be brave enough this time. And if you read it and want nothing to do with me, I'll understand. But if there's even a small part of you that wonders where I went, that wants to know why, I'm here. I've always been here, loving you from a distance, hoping you grew up happy, despite everything. Love always, Mom, Catherine. Jack read the letter 3 times, standing there in the demolished room with dust settling on his shoulders. His hands were shaking by the 3rd read-through. She'd never sent it. Catherine had written this raw, honest, heartbreaking letter, and then she'd hidden it in a wall. Why? What had stopped her? And where were Catherine and Michael now? Jack carefully placed everything back in the box. He should probably just put it back in the wall, seal it, up. Forget he'd ever seen something so private. This was someone else's pain, someone else's story. But he couldn't stop thinking about it. That night, after putting Danielle to bed, Jack sat at his kitchen table with the letter in front of him. His Ex-wife's words echoed in his head, the ones in their last real conversation before she moved across the country with her new husband. "You're too broken, Jack. I can't fix you, and I can't let you break Danielle too." He'd told himself she was wrong. But on the hard days, the ones where smiling felt like lifting concrete, he wondered if she was right, if maybe loving him was too heavy a burden for a 7-year-old to carry. Jack pulled out his laptop and started searching. Catherine's last name wasn't in the letter, but the address was. He found the house. It had been demolished 15 years ago to make way for a shopping plaza. Dead end. He tried searching for Michael, but without a last name, it was impossible. He stared at the photographs again, looking for clues. In one photo, the man wore a shirt with a logo, Henderson's Hardware. Jack searched for it, found nothing current. But there was a historical society mention of a hardware store by that name that had operated in the county from 1975 to 1994. It was something. Over the next week, Jack became obsessed. He told himself it was just a distraction, something to focus on besides his own mess of a life. But the truth was, he needed to know how this story ended. He needed to believe that broken things could be mended, that people who left would find their way back, that forgiveness was possible. He visited the local library and searched through old phone directories. He found a Henderson's Hardware listing with a business number from 1987. The librarian, a woman named Mrs. Chun who'd lived in the area her whole life, studied the photos. "Oh, my goodness," she said softly. "I remember this place. Frank Henderson ran it. Good man. He died about 10 years ago, but I think his son still lives in the area. Do you remember Frank having a wife named Catherine?" Mrs. Chen's face clouded. "Frank was married to Diane. They had a son together. But before that, yes, I think he was married before. It ended badly. I don't remember all the details, but there was a tragedy with their little girl, drowned in their backyard pool. The wife left not long after." Jack felt his chest tighten. "Do you know what happened to her?" "No idea. This would have been late 70s, early 80s. People didn't talk about mental health the way they do now. She just disappeared one day, and Frank never spoke about her again. And the son, Michael," Mrs. Chin smiled. "He'd be in his 40s now. He was a quiet kid, always seemed a little sad. But he turned out okay, I think. Became a counselor or therapist, something like that. Works with kids who've been through trauma." Jack's heart was racing. "Do you know how I could find him?" Mrs. Chin gave him a thoughtful look. "May I ask why you're looking?" Jack showed her the letter. Watching her read, it was like watching his own reaction play back. The tears, the sharp intake of breath, the hand pressed to her chest. "Oh, that poor woman," she whispered. "That poor boy." She helped him search. It took another hour, but they found him. Dr. Michael Henderson, licensed family therapist, practicing in a town 40 miles away. Jack drove out there the next Saturday, Danielle in the back seat working on her homework. He'd promised her ice cream after this errand, though he hadn't explained what the errand was. How could he? He barely understood himself. The office was in a renovated Victorian house, painted pale yellow with white trim. Professional but warm. Jack left Danielle in the waiting room with her tablet and asked the receptionist if he could speak with Dr. Henderson for just a moment. "Do you have an appointment?" "No, but it's about his mother." The receptionist's expression shifted. "One moment." Michael Henderson was tall, like his father must have been, with dark hair going gray at the temples. He had kind eyes, the kind that had seen pain and learned not to look away from it. When he stepped into the waiting room, those eyes found Jack with careful curiosity. "I'm Michael Henderson. My receptionist said this is about my mother." Jack stood, suddenly aware of how insane this must seem. "I'm sorry to bother you. My name is Jack Hartley. I bought an old house on Sycamore Street, and during demolition I found something that belonged to your mother, or was meant for you. I'm not sure how to say this." He handed over the box. Michael stared at it for a long moment before taking it. His hands trembled slightly as he opened it, as he saw the photographs, as he found the letter. Jack watched his face cycle through confusion, recognition, disbelief, and finally something that looked like grief mixed with relief. She wrote this, Michael said quietly. She actually wrote this. You never received it? No. I never heard from her after she left. My father said she wanted nothing to do with us. He remarried when I was 9 and my stepmother was wonderful, but there was always this question mark about why my own mother didn't love me enough to stay. According to this letter, she did love you very much. Michael was crying now, quietly, tears running down his face as he reread the words. She was going to send it. She said she was going to be brave enough this time. What happened? Why did she hide it? Instead, I don't know, but I can help you find out if you want. Michael looked up at him, and Jack saw his own pain reflected there, the confusion of a child. Abandoned, the adult understanding that life is complicated, the desperate hope for answers that might never come. Why are you doing this? Michael asked, why track me down? You could have just thrown it away. Jack glanced at Danielle, who was watching them with curious eyes. I'm a single dad. My daughter's 7. Her mother left us last year for someone else, moved 3 states away. And some days, I wonder if I'm failing Danielle the way your mother thought she was failing you. If I'm too broken to be what she needs. He took a breath. I needed to know if it's possible to fix something this broken, if forgiveness is real, if people can find their way back to each other even after everything falls apart. Michael wiped his eyes and offered a small, sad smile. That's a lot of weight put on a stranger's story. Maybe, but sometimes we need other people's stories to help us make sense of our own. They exchanged phone numbers. Michael said he needed time to process everything, but he wanted to find Catherine if she was still alive. Jack offered to help with whatever he needed. A week passed. Then, too, Jack finished the demolition work on the Sycamore house and started to rebuild. He thought about Catherine every time he framed a new wall, wondered which one she'd hidden, her courage behind. Finally, Michael called. I found her. They met at a coffee shop. Michael looked exhausted but lighter somehow, like he'd set down a weight he'd been carrying for decades. She's alive. She's 68 now, living in a care facility in Oregon. Early onset dementia diagnosed 3 years ago. Her sister's been taking care of her. Jack's heart sank. So she can't tell you what happened. Actually, her sister could. I drove out there yesterday. Michael's voice cracked. She tried to send the letter. She drove to the post office with it. But she had a panic attack in the parking lot, one of the worst she'd ever had. She thought she was having a heart attack. Someone called an ambulance, and in the chaos, she left a letter in her car. When she got out of the hospital, my father had already filed for divorce and gotten a restraining order. He told her if she tried to contact me, he'd have her arrested. She was terrified, unstable, and her therapist advised her to focus on getting healthy first. She had the letter in the wall of her house, this tangible proof that she'd tried, that she wanted to reach out. She planned to retrieve it once she was strong enough to fight for visitation rights. But by the time she was healthy, I was 16, angry, and had told the court I wanted nothing to do with her. She moved to Oregon to live with her sister and tried to rebuild her life. Jack felt tears in his own eyes now. She never stopped loving you. No, she never did. And I never stopped wondering. Michael pulled out his phone and showed Jack a photo, an older woman with white hair and Catherine's smile, sitting in a wheelchair in a garden. Beside her, Michael crouched, holding her hand. She doesn't remember much anymore. Most days she thinks I'm still 7 years old. But yesterday, when I showed her the letter, something clicked. She looked at me and said, I always want to tell you I was sorry. I always want to tell you it wasn't your fault. And I got to say it back. I got to say I was sorry, too, for believing the lies, for not searching harder, for thinking she didn't care. Jack couldn't speak. The weight in his chest, the one that had been there since his wife left, felt lighter. Somehow, she's not going to remember this tomorrow, Michael continued. The dementia's progressing. But 5 minutes yesterday, she knew I'd found her. She knew I understood. And that matters. That changes everything. He looked at Jack with those kind, pain-weathered eyes. You asked if broken things could be mended. They can. They don't always mend the way we expect. And sometimes we don't get the perfect happy ending where everything goes back to how it was. But we get closure. We get understanding. We get the chance to release the weight we've been carrying. Jack thought about Danielle, about all the times he'd wondered if he was enough. What if the person who left can't give you closure? What if they don't want to? Then you create it yourself. You choose to believe that their leaving wasn't about your worth. You choose to build a life that isn't defined by the hole they left behind. You choose to be present for the people who chose to stay. Michael smiled. And you keep renovating houses, I guess. Keep taking broken things and making them beautiful again until you believe you deserve the same. They talked for another hour. Michael shared stories about his work with traumatized children, how understanding his own abandonment had made him better at helping others heal from theirs. Jack talked about Danielle, about his fear of passing his pain down to her like an inheritance she never asked for. You know what I tell parents in my office? Michael said that the fact you're worried about damaging your child is proof you won't. The parents who do damage are the ones who never question themselves, never worry, never try to be better. You're already better than you think you are. When Jack got home that night, Danielle was already asleep. He stood in her doorway, watching her. Breathe, this small person who still looked at him like he hung the moon even when he felt like he was, barely holding it together. He thought about Catherine, hiding her letter in a wall because she couldn't be brave enough to face rejection. He thought about Michael, spending 40 years believing his mother hadn't loved him. He thought about all the words that never got said, all the apologies that never got delivered, all the love that existed in silence. Jack went back to work on the Sycamore house the next Monday with renewed purpose. He wasn't just fixing walls anymore. He was building something new from something broken, proving it could be done. He finished the house in 6 weeks. It was beautiful, original hardwood floors refinished to a honey glow, new windows that flooded the rooms with light, a kitchen that opened to a dining room without walls between them, open, honest, connected. On the day he listed for sale, Michael came by with his wife and 2 teenage daughters. They walked through every room, and Michael paused in the dining room where Jack had found the letter. "This is where it was?" he asked. "Right there, behind where that bookshelf is now." Michael touched the wall gently, reverently. Then he turned to Jack. "I want to buy it." Jack blinked. "What?" "This house. I want to buy it. I want my mother to live out her remaining time somewhere connected to that letter, even if she doesn't remember it. Her sister agrees. She thinks Mom would love the light here, the garden. And I want to walk past this wall every day and remember that love doesn't disappear just because we can't see it. It's still there waiting to be found." They closed on the house 6 weeks later. Jack gave them a more than fair price. Michael's family moved in on a Saturday in late October, and they invited Jack and Danielle to the housewarming. Catherine was there, in her wheelchair in the garden, watching the autumn leaves fall. She didn't know where she was, but she smiled at the sunlight and hummed softly to herself. When Michael introduced Jack, she looked up with clouded eyes and said, "Are you the man who found my letter?" Jack exchanged a glance with Michael, who shrugged. "She has moments of clarity. They're rare, but they happen." "Yes, ma'am," Jack said, kneeling beside her chair. "I found your letter." Catherine reached out and took his hand. Her grip was weak, but warm. "Did he read it?" "Did my boy read it?" "He did, and he understood, and he loves you very much." She started crying then, quiet tears that ran down her weathered face. "I always wanted to be brave. Enough. I always wanted to tell him." "You did tell him. Your words found him. That's all that matters." She squeezed his hand once more, then seemed to drift away again, back into whatever fog claimed most of her days. But she was smiling. Later, As the party wound down, Danielle tugged on Jack's sleeve. "Daddy, was that lady lost?" Jack knelt down to her level. "In a way, sweetheart, but she's found now. Because of you. Because lots of people cared enough to help her find her way home." Danielle thought about this, her small face serious. "When Mommy left, I thought it was because I wasn't good enough. Like maybe if I was better, she would have stayed." Jack felt his heart crack open. "Oh, baby. No. Come here." He pulled her into a hug, feeling her small body against his chest. "Your mommy leaving had nothing to do with you. You are perfect exactly as you are. Sometimes adults make choices that hurt people they love, but those choices aren't about the people who get hurt. Like that lady who left her boy. Yes, like Catherine. She didn't leave because Michael wasn't enough. She left because she was sick and scared and didn't know how to stay. But she always loved him. Does Mommy still love me?" Jack chose his words carefully. "I think she does, in her own way. But even if she doesn't love us the way we need to be loved, we're going to be okay. Because we have each other, and we have people who care about us, and we have the courage to keep building something beautiful even when things are hard." Danielle pulled back and looked at him with her mother's eyes and his own stubborn chin. "Will you?" "Leave me, too. Never. Not in a million years. Not for anything in the world." "Promise?" "I promise." She hugged him again, tighter this time. Over her shoulder, Jack saw Michael watching them with understanding in his eyes. He nodded, a gesture of solidarity between two people who knew what it meant to be left behind and to choose every single day to stay. 3 months later, Jack started his next project, a craftsman bungalow that had been gutted by fire. As he stood in the charred remains of what used to be someone's home, he felt something different than he had before. Not the desperate need to fix, something to prove he could. Just a quiet satisfaction of knowing he was good at taking damage and transforming it into possibility. He thought about Catherine's letters sometimes, about all the words we hide because we're not brave enough to speak them. He started writing his own letter to Danielle, one she could read when she was older, explaining everything he felt but couldn't always say. How much he loved her, how his sadness wasn't her fault, how she'd save him in ways she'd never understand. He didn't hide it in a wall. He put it in a fire safe in his closet, updated it every few months, and told himself that one day he'd be brave enough to give it to her directly. Michael texted him occasionally with updates. Catherine had good days and bad days. She'd forgotten about the letter again, forgotten about being found, but she seemed happy in her sunny room with her family around her. Michael had started volunteering with a support group for adult children of parents with mental illness, sharing his story, helping others understand that abandonment is complex and forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. Jack kept renovating houses. Some were easy fixes, some were money pits. But each one taught him something about himself, about patience, about persistence, about how the most damaged things often hide the most beauty underneath. And one spring morning, almost a year after he'd found a letter, Jack was working on a porch railing when Danielle came running up with a drawing. "Look what I made at school." It was a picture of the two of them, stick figures holding hands in front of a house. The house had a heart. On it, at the top, in her careful 7-year-old handwriting, she'd written, "Me and Daddy. We fix broken things." Jack felt tears prick his eyes. "It's perfect, sweetheart. Ms. Rodriguez said we had to draw our families and what makes them special. Some kids drew big, families with lots of people. But I just drew us. Is that okay?" "That's more than okay. That's exactly right." She beamed at him, then ran off to play in the yard. Jack tucked the drawing carefully into his toolbox. Next to the photo, he kept the letter, the one Michael had sent him as a thank you. He wasn't healed completely. He still had hard days when grief ambushed him, when he wondered if he'd ever feel whole again. But he was learning that healing wasn't about going back to who you were before. It was about building something new from the broken pieces, about finding meaning in the cracks. That evening, as he and Danielle ate dinner on their back porch. She asked him a question that caught him off guard. "Daddy, do you think people can find each other even when they've been lost for a long time?" He thought about Catherine and Michael, about 40 years of separation ending in a garden full of autumn leaves, about words written in fear finally being read with love, about broken circles closing at last. "Yes, sweetheart. I think if people are meant to find each other, they always do, even if it takes a long time, even if the path there is hard. Love has a way of finding its way home." She nodded, satisfied, and went back to her dinner. But Jack sat there a while longer, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of gold and pink, thinking about all the letters hidden in walls, all the words we're afraid to speak, all the courage it takes to be found. He thought about his next project, about the houses waiting to be rescued from neglect, about Danielle growing up in homes her father rebuilt with his own hands, about the life they were creating together. One day at a time, one room at a time, one act of bravery at a time. And for the first time since his wife left, Jack felt something beyond just survival. He felt hope. The houses would keep coming. The hard days would keep coming. But so would the good ones. So would the moments of unexpected grace, the connections that appear when we least expect them, the proof that broken things can be made beautiful again. Jack looked at his daughter, this fierce, tender-hearted little girl who'd chosen to see their small family as complete rather than broken, and he made her a silent promise. He would keep showing up, keep being present, keep choosing courage over fear, keep building something solid and true from the rubble of what came before. Because that's what you do when you love someone. You stay, you rebuild, you believe that tomorrow might be the day you find a letter you didn't know you were looking for, the one that explains everything, the one that finally lets you forgive yourself and everyone who couldn't stay. You keep going. And sometimes, if you're very lucky, you get to help someone else find their way home. 2. If this story touched you, I'd love to hear where you're watching from and what moment resonated with you most. Sometimes the stories we need to hear find us exactly when we need them. Did this remind you of something in your own life? Did it teach you anything about forgiveness, second chances, or the courage it takes to keep building even when things feel broken? Drop a comment below. I read every single one. And if you believe in stories about healing, hope, and houses that hold more than just memories, hit that subscribe button. There are more stories coming, more houses to restore, more letters waiting to be found. Let's find them together. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for believing that broken things can become beautiful again.